So here I am, sat outside my man shed with this, the acoustic guitar, one of the best musical inventions of all time. Now, I have a few adult pupils. Now, the reason I'm making this video is because I've got a lot of these adult pupils who said, I wish I'd learnt guitar when I was young, and even other people say, oh, I wish I'd done guitar. And actually, it's reasonably straightforward to start, but there are a few issues with guitar, a few small things that just need to be worked out first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you 4 chords. So this is my Echo Ranger 6-string. I picked it up at the car boot sale for £25 and it was quite bad. It was absolutely filthy, and I just put a new set of strings, gave it a clean up, and it's absolutely lovely. So it's a fairly inexpensive way of getting started with music as well. So I'm going to show you these 4 chords. So we're going to start off with E minor, C, G, and D. Now I've got my other camera up here which can see the end of the guitar a little bit more clearly. So if I just angle the guitar very slightly now, I'm going to show you that first chord. So E minor, we've got the strings numbered 1, which is the thinnest, to 6, which is the thickest one. So on the 4th and 5th strings, 2nd fret, I'm going to put my middle finger and annular finger. So I'm going to put my 2 fingers down like that on these strings. You have to be quite firm with these strings because this is the sound you need. If you don't press down hard enough, you get this. And then the strings are damped. The physics of this is that you have to press down the string so that it firmly touches the fret that's in front of your finger. And if that happens, you're in business. So E minor then is this. Middle finger on the 5th string, 2nd fret, annular finger on the 4th string, also on the 2nd fret. So they're in the same fret space like this, and you get this chord. And there's your E minor. So if I also show you the fact that my hand has to come all the way round to the neck. If you grab the guitar like that, if you really grab it, the end of the neck, it's not going to work very well at all. And actually you get less strength if you do that. The strength is with your hand around the guitar, depends on a constant curve between your sort of forearm, wrist, and then into your hand, and then into your fingers. If you've got any collapsing hand or any fingers that do that, you lose all your strength. So there is E minor, and my thumb comes right at the bottom of the neck like that, not like that, but just sort of midway or even slightly further round, so that you end up with a big gap underneath the guitar neck there. So there's your E minor. With the other 2 fingers, you just leave them free. So rather than, some people put them underneath the neck like that, but all that does is it just stops them working if you need to change your chord. And talking of changing of the chord, we go from E minor here to C. Now a C chord is index finger on the 2nd string in 1st fret, then miss a string, middle finger on the 4th string, 2nd fret, and then your annular finger on the 5th string, 3rd fret. Now that can be difficult to reach if you grab the guitar like that. So this really is a case of trying to bring your hand round as far as you possibly can. So there's your C chord. Now ideally you don't strum the 6th string when you're playing the C chord, because it sounds a bit bottom heavy. There are music theory reasons behind this, but I won't go into that now. It just sounds a little bit bottom heavy. So if you can, avoid playing the 6th string. You can, however, mute the 6th string if you put your annular finger on the 5th string, but just touch the 6th. So it just damps the note like that, which means that you can strum all 6 and you don't have to worry about strumming you know, specific strings. Talking of the strumming hand, I'm not showing you that close up at the moment because it's a bit more self-explanatory. You just have downbeats, but between two downs you'd need an up. And you can either elect to use that up stroke or not. Like that. So, moving on from C, we've got the G chord. Now this is annular finger on the first string, 3rd fret, middle finger, the opposite end of the neck. Now some people find this a really tricky chord to get, and actually what you just need to do is to make sure that you really do bring your hand round for this. So we've got annular finger, 3rd fret, 1st string, middle finger, 3rd fret on the 6th string, and then your index finger here on the 5th string, 2nd fret. So you end up with this. Now, if you grab the guitar too much, it sort of sounds a little bit sort of, well, it's just muted. Some of the strings just aren't working at all. And you can see my thumb here is right the way around here, and that's not right at all. You need this. I do a lot of recording sessions on acoustic guitar, and at the end of a tune, usually when you get that held chord, you have to leave it absolutely untouched and no buzzing or anything. So it's actually quite hard when you're recording to make that work. So there's your G. And then the D chord is the last one. Now what we've got here is your middle finger, 2nd fret, 1st string. Your index finger goes on the 3rd string at the same fret space, and then your annular finger comes between those two on the 3rd fret, 2nd string, so that you end up with this. Now, one string here, the 6th string, doesn't go with this chord. There's your chord. The 5th string will also work with it. Okay, but the 6th string won't. Now, there's a way of damping this. Luckily, because the D chord is, the fingers are all over here, you can get away with bringing your thumb round just to touch the 6th string to stop it from vibrating. You can do that. Or you can just aim with the right hand for 4 strings. If you catch the 5th one, it doesn't matter. But if you aim for 4 strings, you're less likely to hit the 6th one. So there's your D chord. There's your D chord there. So going from this, the first chord, E minor, to C, to G, to D, and then back to E minor. If you practice a chord sequence, always make sure that you go back to the first chord, because then you're practicing the overlap, as it were. So changing from E minor to C involves a few operations. It may seem like a guitarist is just, it's changing instantly, but actually it's a sequence of events. So E minor to C involves your middle finger moving across a string, moving to from the 5th string to the 4th, and then your annular finger moving to the 5th string, 3rd fret, and then your index finger goes down on the 2nd string, 1st fret. So, just the sequence there. I'll just turn the guitar slightly so the other camera can see it. E minor to C. So in slow motion with those changes. It's just worth having those 2 chords. just practicing those two chords before moving on to the third one, just so that you get used to the concept of moving your fingers around. It's I know it might seem a bit patronising, this, but actually this is quite a weird motor skill that some people, you know, never do until they pick up a guitar. So, especially if you're right-handed, you play guitar with your left hand doing all this stuff. You think that's all wrong, it should be the right hand, surely. So, there are sort of things to think about there. So, from C to G. Now, I showed you G like this, where I had the middle finger and the index finger and the annular finger with the last finger free. However, from C to G, because the shape of the chord is very similar, you could move these two fingers up and use your last finger here, leaving your index finger free. So there are two ways of playing G. You can either use your last three fingers or your first three. And it depends on the context. If you're going from C to G, it may be easier to use your last three fingers. Now, with the strumming here, I'm using a plectrum. You don't have to use a plectrum. You could just strum with your fingers. Get slightly more powerful sound, actually. So you can use the fingernails on your right hand to just sweep across the string. So if I just, like that. And then an upstroke would be quieter. That sounds more natural. Where the upstroke might just catch maybe two of the strings. So the downs are always stronger than the ups. And that just makes it, if it was, doesn't sound so natural. There's a sort of driving rhythm there. So anyway, there's your four chords there. Now these are called open chords. What you can do is, if maybe you're singing a song in this key, or there's a record that you want to learn, but you want to sing it as well, but maybe it's too low or it's too high, you use something called a capo, which is a device that clamps the strings at a certain position, at a certain fret, and it does the same job as what happens at the end of the guitar here, where the strings go to the tuners here. This is an old acoustic guitar, this is late 70s, and as such has this thing called a 0 fret on here, which is actually very useful because it keeps it quite nicely in tune and all the chords sound in tune. The cheaper acoustics, some of these chords, well, that's in tune, and that one, and that one. They're all pretty good. The more expensive acoustics do sound much better because the chords are all in tune. So if you do buy yourself an acoustic, I was very lucky with this one, really lucky with it. But in order to get a guitar that you'd like to play, lots of people think, oh, I'll just buy a starter guitar just to see how I get on. It's like playing it's like trying to play one of these panels here. Horrible, just... all you'd want to do is just put the thing down and never touch it again. So with an acoustic, if you spend a couple of £100 new, you'll get something that's quite nice. If you spend £80 or £90 on a starter kit, or if you go into one of the pawn shops and there's guitars there, it's not likely to give you a nice experience. New set of strings always helps. A nice clean neck always helps, keeping the back of the neck clean so that it's easy to get around, and also just basic things like washing your hands before you play. That makes all the difference. So in addition to those four chords, there are lots of other open chords as well. We have an A chord here, which is the three fingers. Together with index finger on fourth string, middle finger on third, annular finger on second string, but all contained within the same fret. That's easier said than done, actually. And also, because this finger is furthest away from the fret, you really have to put extra pressure on it to make it sound. But, yeah, with things like my North Dorset fingers, they're not nice fingers. So instead of using the three fingers together, I tend to use just one and just forget about that note. Now, on that subject, a chord, a major or minor chord, has 3 different notes in. And you think, well, hang on, there's 6 strings here. The answer is some of those notes are repeated. So, for example, an A chord, there are 2 of these, 2 of these, and 1 of those. The notes themselves are unimportant in the name, you know, in their names, unless you really want to delve into the theory of music. But if you've got 2 notes the same, but one's slightly higher than the other, it doesn't really matter if one of them's not there. It's not a million miles of difference, really. With the G chord, for example, lots of people learn the G chord with just this finger first. So instead of the full G, we're having to get your hand all the way down there, they just put one finger here and play 4 strings. So it's a slightly gentler version than this. So there are many ways of going about this. C could be just the 2 fingers, but playing only 4 of the strings. The strings 1, 2, 3 and 4, not the 5th and 6th. So when you're beginning guitar, when you're playing the chords, you could just start off with slightly easier versions and just playing a few of the strings. It's quite easy to get a fairly quick result with this. Once you've got 2 chords, ground control to Major Tom, ground control to Major Tom. Yeah, you're already, 25 seconds into Space Oddity, for example. That's just one example of many, many things. Lots of the Beatles tunes, it was all open chords and just in varying orders. So once you've got these chords in place, the number of tunes you can play is in the thousands.